So many highlights, especially in the pool of Paris La Défense Arena. It's a good opportunity for me to remind that the temporary pool is at the heart of a major swimming legacy for Paris 2024. After the games, it will be dismantled together with the warm-up also and training pool. And they will be moved to two towns in Seine-Saint-Denis, Sevran and Bagnolet. And in total, it is 20 new and renovated pools that will be left to the Paris region after the games. Our president, Tony Stanguet, was present at the Paris La Défense Arena to witness the memorable evening yesterday for French sport with this magnificent two double gold and double Olympic record for Léon Marchand. Today, Tony will be making a short trip to Lille to attend the men's basketball match between France and Nigeria. And we are also expecting another capacity crowd in this venue with 27,000 seats. And just to conclude, as you asked yesterday, the results of the water quality of the river Seine. So the samples taken yesterday between 5 a.m. and 6 a.m. showed level of E. coli between 192 and 308, which is considered as very good by World Triathlon. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Anne. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for being here. A couple of quick overnight stats for some of you who like them. In Australia, Nine's Paris 2024 primetime broadcast has been Australia's #1 programme every day since the Games began. And on digital, just to give you one quick figure, from the IOC, across our 40 social media handles on 15 platforms, Olympics have generated 7.8 billion engagements. So not impressions, engagements, which is quite impressive. I have down here that there are 18 gold medal events today. The President Bach is at rowing, canoe, and then gymnastics this evening. Okay, we're going to, as usual, go to a topic, and then all your questions are welcome on that topic, and then we will take anything else that you want to ask. And it's on safeguarding and athlete well-being today, one of the strategic priorities of the IOC. And it says in Recommendation 5 of Olympic Gender, which I'm sure you're all aware of, to protect the physical and mental well-being of athletes and recognise the need for multi-stakeholder collaboration to safeguard athletes' well-being. Well, with me is Kirsty Burrows, head of the IOC's Safe Sport Unit, who's going to run you through, I think, give you some idea of some of the initiatives that we've been undertaking in the past few years. Kirsty, over to you.
Thank you, Mark, and it's a real pleasure to be here to talk about a topic which is not only close to my heart, but as Mark mentioned, a key strategic priority of the IOC, and that is safe sport. So when we talk about safe sport, we're talking about physically and psychologically safe athletic environments, so both mental health and also safeguarding. We're really pleased that the Olympic Games Paris 2024 has the most comprehensive package of mental health and safeguarding, so safe sport initiatives, services, infrastructure, than any other Olympic or sporting event in history. I wanted to take you through a little bit of it. Here, I don't know if you had the chance to see on the tour through the village previously, but here we have the Athlete 365 Mind Zone, which has been developed in collaboration with Powerade. And it's staffed by my team at the IOC Safe Sport Unit in the IOC Medical and Scientific Department. We worked really closely together with the Athletes Department on developing this concept because it's what the athletes wanted. Athletes really wanted a space within the Olympic Village where they could disconnect and decompress. We know that mental health is a critical topic for athletes, and it's something that we see in general. So around 1 in 3 people across the world will experience at some point in their life a mental health symptom or disorder, and athletes are people too. And it was really important that we focused on mental health and well-being at the Games, and it's our main entry point for safe sport. What's really important as well is not to medicalize it. The Olympic Games are not only an opportunity to, of course, centralize the health and well-being of all the athletes that are participating, but also an incredible springboard. As I mentioned, 1 in 3 people will experience a mental health symptoms or disorder, but mental health is stigmatized across society, and access to support is really, really challenging. So what we did was we came from a perspective of well-being. So we created the Athlete 365 Mind Zone, and it's really also an area where it reflects our holistic mental health approach. So it incorporates mindfulness and resilience as a fundamental part of overall health. It's next to the gym, so we have physical health, mental health, two halves of a whole, and care for both should be taken as the same. So what can you see in this Mind Zone? Well, as I mentioned, it's not just a cool place to go. I mean, for the athletes, first of all, it's phenomenal. We've been really pleased to see engagement on social media, proactive engagement from the athletes, spontaneous engagement, highlighting the Mind Zone as one of their favorite places to go. We're really pleased because it means the athletes are owning the space. So we have in there bespoke VR-guided meditation, for example, mindfulness, preparation for exercise, which is, again, bespoke. It takes you through Paris into the Olympic Stadium. It's fantastic. Breathing exercises. It's been used already over 800 times, and the athletes have rated it. 92% of them have said they're either extremely satisfied or satisfied with it. In this zone, we also have an area for mindfulness and meditation. The whole zone is soundproofed. It's got low lighting. It's really designed to be an area for disconnection, decompression. We've also got painting. And what's important here is that all of these initiatives are evidence-based. So all of the initiatives are evidence-based to really promote a sense of calm and well-being. And it's all about that public health approach where we focus on mental wellness. That said, the team have also been trained in mental health first aid. So what's important is the recognition that someone might be in need of further support. And we have a full comprehensive network and pathways to support that is then available. So this is really a zone that is not only looking after the athlete well-being, ensuring access to support for any concerns or things they would like to talk about, but it's also about destigmatizing mental health conversations and improving access to care. So again, for us, it's not just a cool space. It really has an impact and a purpose, and that's about really destigmatizing mental health and making sure athletes are well and that they have access to support. In addition, we also have, of course, psychologists and psychiatrists in the polyclinic. And one thing we're really keen on is ensuring that the mental health and well-being support doesn't just exist during the games. So we have the Mentally Fit Helpline, which is a service available in over 70 languages that all Olympians and Paralympians competing in Paris will be able to access in over 70 languages during the games and for 4 years afterwards. We're also doing a number of post-game support systems. That includes things like courses on the post-Olympic blues, and we have subscriptions to mindfulness application as well. So there's a whole package of tools and initiatives, and it's really focused on mental well-being and improving that access to support, and of course, where critical further support is needed, making sure that that is done swiftly and in a way that the athlete would like, in a way that speaks to them, to their context, to their culture. On that, when I talk about that network of support, the network of support also includes 148 welfare officers. So this is a new accreditation type, first introduced in Beijing, but it's been continued over and will continue over. Here in Paris, we have 148 accredited NOC welfare officers from 76 NOCs. That's phenomenal. So the IOC Safe Sport team, we're the central safe sport team, but we work together with a vast network of 148 accredited welfare officers and 41 safeguarding focal points from all international federations. These welfare officers are either licensed and registered mental health professionals or they are trained safeguarding officers. And we're also doing, led by Gloria Becerras from my team, throughout the games, we're doing 6 sessions with them, which are community of practice and continuing professional development sessions, bringing in some of the world's leading experts. It's really about trying to ensure that the games are not only a space where the safety and well-being of the athletes is really considered and is ensured, but it's also about ensuring that that doesn't stop when the games end and that we can really ensure this continuing professional development and this community of practice for athletes when they go back home. We also have myself and Gloria, they are safeguarding officers in the village, and Scott, who's leading on mental health, and of course our integrity hotline for anyone who would like to report any further concerns. But this is, I think, one thing about safeguarding. It's really important to offer multifaceted entry points. So we have the hotline, we also have the Safe Sport Zone, the Mind Zone, as I mentioned, and we have a campaign all around the village which has QR codes. So if anyone is in need of further support, they can reach out to us, whether that's just on general well-being or whether that's on a specific concern. Going through, I've got some of these things here. The other thing we wanted to flag to you, which we're really, really pleased about, is the Cyber Abuse Prevention Service. So the Cyber Abuse Prevention Service, this is the first time that we're utilizing, harnessing the power of AI to provide record-breaking coverage to all athletes competing in the Olympic Games and Paralympic Games, as well as entourage members and officials. So it's utilizing the power of AI to detect at real time, at scale, and at pace any online violence targeted towards athletes, officials, and entourage members in over 37 languages across multiple platforms. Again, what's really important about this is these are not just tools, they're fully integrated within our systems. So whenever something is flagged, it is flagged to the platform for removal. There is the potential to package information that is criminal for further proceedings. And our safeguarding team is fully aware. So we then action safeguarding support on the ground for anyone who is being targeted by online violence. I think Mark's looking at me because I'm going on a bit, so I'm going to stop maybe now.
Never said a word.
But no, so in total, the series of packages, and I think what I really wanted to flag today is that not only are these a series of packages, systems, and initiatives which provide holistic support and well-being, but they are really thought through to ensure continuation of care. And I think that entry point from mental well-being has been crucial and critically important. And so far at the Games, what we've been really proud of is the amount of engagement we've had, proactive engagement from athletes coming to us. And I think that is the most important thing that we could wish for, and that's trust, and that the athletes feel that this is something that we are prioritizing, they see we're prioritizing it, and they know they can speak to us. So I'm really pleased to provide any more information or any more answer any of your questions, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Kirsty. Yeah, I mean, we do get a lot of questions here about particularly online abuse and athlete welfare. So anyway, let's begin, and maybe if we could start with questions on this topic. I'm happy to take other ones, but as we have Kirsty here, so gentlemen down here, and then we'll come across.
Athletes have reached out to you with mental health issues since the beginning of the Games?
Well, that's a good question, and I wouldn't be able to provide exact numbers. We have a tracker and a log, but what's really important is there's a team behind this, so I wouldn't be able to provide exact figures also in terms of confidentiality, but we will see, and we will make sure that we are tracking it, and we will be able to show that later on after the Games. I think one thing that is important, though, so I mentioned that the cyber abuse covers online open source abuse, right? We are seeing a lot of abuse that's going to people in their direct messages, and what's happening then is they are coming to us and saying, hey, I've got abuse in the direct messages, and then we're actioning that, and so they know the system is available, and I think that's really important. Just in terms of some facts and figures, though, whilst we're seeing, over thousands of abusive content, violence, targeted violence against athletes, entourage members, and officials have already been actioned. What we are pleased about is that the scale of the violence is only around 2%, which is lower than industry average for violence. So the vast majority of comments and posts around the Olympic Games have been really, really positive. But those 2% matter, and I think I really want to underline that online violence causes real and embodied harm. And so what we are really, again, together with our AI service provider and my team on the ground, the team on the ground in terms of safeguarding and mental health and wellbeing support, making sure that there's full systems and follow-up to support those people. But we hope to continue to see a reduction in online violence towards any participants at the Games.
Yeah, Tariq there, and then, yeah, Rob. Oh, sorry.
Hi, Kirsty. Tariq Pandya from the New York Times. Just in terms of the AI, what happens? So it detects something, and then you said you action it. Now, X, for example, isn't removing much since the takeover by this billionaire guy. The other platform, are there differences in how the platforms are dealing with this? And why does it take you guys to spend lots of money on AI and everything else? Shouldn't the platforms themselves be able to police this harm and dangerous messaging?
Well, I can only speak about what we do. So what we heard from athletes that they were being targeted by online violence, and we see that it is a problem which is quite endemic, I would say, not just within the context of sport, but across all sectors. I think you as the media also might have some experience of this, unfortunately. So really for us, it was about responding to a concern that athletes raise, and that's what we always try and do, take an athlete-focused approach. They raise that Normally what's happening is they're being targeted by violence. They are having to report it to the platform themselves, but the harm has already happened. And that's the point, is how can we do this how can we reduce the harm that online violence causes? And also, how can we get a better understanding of online violence? Because it's really hard to be able to again, if you take a public health approach, it's hard to be able to address something which you don't have a full understanding of how it manifests in a certain context, the typology of violence, certain trigger points, X, Y, Z. So that's why we decided to use the AI service. First of all, because you can detect at real time, real scale, and real pace. So we anticipate around 500 million social media posts throughout the games, which if you would take 1 second per post would take you 16 years non-stop to go through. So it was about the speed, first of all, and also about being able to better understand, because we always look to try and improve safeguarding measures, but we can only do that and really look to address online violence if we better understand how it, as I mentioned, the typology of violence and how it manifests in the sports context. And of course, the primary thing, we can't talk about safe sport if it's not digitally safe in the Olympic environment. So the primary thing is always about the protection of the athletes. So we looked for a service which would be able to, and that's where the use of AI comes in, right? Because you're able to do it at real time, at scale, and at pace, scanning millions of data points. And then effectively it seeks, using natural language understanding, to see where there might be targeted abuse against athletes that are competing at the games. And then it applies a unique threat algorithm. The AI then categorizes the abuse based on different types of violence, and then it goes through a human triage. And that's really important as well for context. AI is always learning. No system is perfect, but it's better than having to do it post by post. We'd be here forever. So then it goes through a human triage, and then it is actioned. And what happens is the team that we work with have an expedited route to the platform, and they've been really successful in taking down with the platforms many, over 1,000 targeted abusive comments and posts towards athletes, entourage members, and officials just in the last 7 days. But again, and then also they're able to do a forensic digital analysis as well of where is this abuse coming from, what is is it a bot, is it a XYZ? So that further things can be actioned in case it's potentially criminal, the abuse that's coming through. And then most importantly, we get every single day a report saying this is who's being targeted, this is the level of abuse they're receiving, this is the level of risk, and then the team follows up with the delegations in person to provide in-person support.
Going to come down the front too, and then we're going to move over here first. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Hi, Kirsty. Adam Plowright from AFP. I was wondering if you could give us some figures. I understand that the AI protection service is an opt-in service. So if you could tell us sort of how many of the athletes here have taken up the service you're offering. And secondly, I know you spoke about that as part of the service is actually being able to signal to lodge legal complaints based on if you find evidence of cyberbullying. Can you tell us, have any been lodged so far, and do you anticipate that during the games that you will report cyberbullying cases to law enforcement in France?
Yeah, so thank you very much. For the first one, hang on, you did two, and I just remember the first one, uptake, yes. So all athletes, all Olympians and Paralympians are de facto covered by the service. There was a lot of work done beforehand to make sure that all Olympians and Paralympians are de facto covered. For the entourage members and officials, they had to opt in. That's just because we don't have their details in the same way that we have for the athletes. So they're available to opt in, and we have the information, and we have QR codes that they can opt in. I don't have the figures for how many have opted in from entourage and officials, but I'm happy to get that. Of course, also, because the AI, the way that it's working, they're also picking up abuse that is to somebody that might be an official, for example, who isn't covered by the service, but then we speak and we say, okay, can you activate it? So we say, they're very, very fast in, okay, this is coming through, and we say, okay, activate it. And where athletes or officials or others are coming to us with particularly, horrible in DM abuse, which is, again, not covered by the service because it's only open source, the service provider, we're working together with them to also increase the service with that person's consent in order to be able to do that, or to action it based on the follow-up channels and actions again. So it's really a fast and very reactive service. In terms of when something breaches the criminal code, we have a responsibility when something is criminal to report it. I think that's just whether this is through. So if something is criminal, it's not about the system is looking for anything which breaches community guidelines, so it doesn't have to be criminal in nature for it to be actioned. But if it is criminal, if it does breach that threshold, then you have a responsibility to report it, but that's through the service provider the information is reported. But that's the same for any crime that's committed. There's a responsibility to report.
Okay, going to go Rob Harris down the front here, just here. Then we come with Graham and then gentleman there. Yeah.
Hi, Kirsty. Could you give any anonymised data results on the number of reports you're receiving into the safeguarding hotlines, what sort of reports you might be receiving, and how widespread are the restrictions that are placed on some participants in the games? We know of the Dutch volleyball player, the Zambia football coach, who apparently have restrictions placed on who they can privately come into contact with. Are there quite a few people that we don't know about necessarily that do have those sorts of restrictions put in place on them to protect athletes in terms of safeguarding?
Yeah, I think what's important to say is that it is we're really pleased. Again, we have 41 focal points within the international federation, so we've had a fantastic collaboration with them. So whenever there are athletes who might be in need of further support, I think that's one of the things we take a whole person perspective, right? So it's about protecting everybody within the Olympic environment. So when there are concerns and there might be athletes in need of further support, what we do is it's standard practice to ensure safeguarding plans are in place. That's developed together with the National Olympic Committee and also with the International Federation. So with the safeguarding plans in place, there are a number of, effectively it's bespoke based on a risk assessment that is then done to then see, okay, what measures need to be in place so that everybody in the delegation, the athletes, can have the best experience at the games. And that's what's really, really important to us, always going back to that point. So that's the same in terms of what you mentioned with the cases that were done. The cases were developed by the competent supporting organizations, and then we are made aware of those so that we can know what's happening. And each one is bespoke based on the situation they've done a risk assessment and to then see, okay, what measures are needed. So it's difficult to say with any one plan because they have different measures in place, but there is a process which is standard practice to see how those measures are defined and how they are implemented, and then it's always communicated together with us as well so that we're aware of what's going on.
Okay, we're going to go Graham and then chap here, yeah.
Good morning, it's Graham Dunbar from the Associated Press. Looking back to Tokyo and the case of Kristina Simonskaya, even though that was a especially bad time in Belarus's political life, the content, sort of abusive relationship between coaches and athletes, can't say that doesn't happen. Looking back on that case, what's in place now? Would there have been a more rapid reaction, something more interventionist? Would you hope that would have been picked up earlier, or is there a better known reporting mechanism for athletes so that something that happened in Tokyo wouldn't get to that stage this time?
I wasn't head of Safe Sport then, so I'm not familiar with that case particularly, so it's hard for me to respond directly to a case. But if it's more general about a situation, I can help answer that, if that would.
Yeah. But I think in any case, it's probably not best not to stray into talking about specific personalities, but you can talk about athlete-coach relationship.
Yeah, okay. So, no, I'm aware, but I'm just saying that in that sense, I wasn't the person that was looking after that. And as Mark said, it's really important to not have to not mention single cases. But this is, I think, what's important is the use of AI, and also the importance of having systems and processes, frameworks in place well before, well communicated, a network of practice. So that what's really important, and in general in safeguarding, it's the same for mental health. These are two topics which, again, are endemic societal issues. They exist and they manifest also in the context of sport. Both of these issues, reporting is really hard. And actually, the onus shouldn't be on someone to have to report. It's really hard to talk about these things. So what's really important is having systems in place where we can proactively prevent abuse from happening, and also have systems in place which can recognize when someone might be in need of further support, to reduce the onus on them having to report it or having to go out in the media, and then of course there might be something else that comes onto them in terms of the pressure of being exposed in the public eye, which can also then exacerbate potentially the concerns that people might have. So that's why we're really pleased about the AI situation, the AI service, is because it's able to do it in real time and at pace. And on a daily basis, we get reports through, and the next day that is actioned in terms of follow-up support. So I hope that in this case, it would also have made a big difference.
Yeah, gentleman here.
Cathal Kelly, the Globe and Mail. Question for Mark, if I might. The Canadian women's football team has been penalized at these Olympics for cheating. We now know that practice was long-standing. There is reporting in Canada that suggests it was happening in Tokyo against the host country. Canada won a gold medal at that games. I have two questions. Given that they gave out the medals, does the IOC plan any investigations of its own into this matter? And second, if a Canadian investigation determines that there was cheating at the Tokyo Olympics or any other in which the team won a medal, would the IOC be open to the idea of that medal or medals being voluntarily returned?
So it probably won't surprise you to know that in the first instance will be a matter for FIFA, in this case for the federation, because they have to continue any investigations, and they would have to come up with sanctions. Similarly, for medal reallocation, that is always led by the federation's results. So if, for example, in a hypothetical case, someone were disqualified, then there could then be a medal reallocation. But they would first and foremost be for the federation to make the decision. We follow the sports results first and foremost.
In your living memory, has this ever happened?
My living memory?
Where the national...
Unfortunately, my memory isn't living anymore. But
the National Organizing Committee has voluntarily given the medal back?
I can't say. I don't think so. But I mean, again, we're happy to have a look and see if we can find that with our kind of researchers. But I don't... Not sure. Trying to think of one. But anyway. Okay, I mean, we are happy to take more questions for Kirsty or other questions in general. I can see Tariq chomping at the bit. Yeah.
Well, we've moved on from the safeguarding part. Can
we can do, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you, Kirsty. Tariq Panja from the New York Times again. And can I ask, you know, in the opening ceremony, I remember talking to Antoine Arnaud the day before. I said it'd be a big surprise, and there really was. You know, there was the Louis Vuitton barge there, and then there was the video segment. How much of that, because they're a company and the IOC, you know, is very skittish about things like that, was that quite difficult to manage because, you know, they're a commercial company and it's a sponsor? And Mark, how much did the IOC kind of, was it a surprise for you guys as well, or did you know exactly how much of that would be in the opening ceremony? Thank you.
Maybe if I start and then see if you want to add anything. I mean, obviously, throughout that period, I mean, you have to remember that the opening ceremony is a work of many years. So we have a liaison with Paris 24 on that. It's obviously it's their ceremony, and we work with them on approvals and so on. So we have a regular meetings and updates on that, looking at the various sections and so on, and what the content will be. But it's very much the opening ceremony is very much something for the organising committee to produce, and they keep us informed as you would expect of throughout the process. Would that be fair enough? And well, we knew the content.
Just to add that, you know, the opening ceremony is an opportunity for the host country to showcase the best of the country. And on our side, being able, thanks to our sponsorship with LVMH, to showcase what is one of the key sectors of France, luxurious sector, was very important for us. You know, we have a very creative partnership with LVMH, and it was for us a strength to showcase during this ceremony.
Yeah, it's a long process, driven by the organising committee, and we have an idea of the broad content of what's in the opening ceremony. But obviously, in terms of detail and so on, that's something for the artistic director and the people who are running the ceremonies. Yes, sir.
Yes, Serge Jean from Reuters. Question maybe more for Anne, I would say. There's been reports of thefts at the Olympic Village, especially for Japanese athletes. I would like to know how many law enforcement officers you have on site and how you're happy with the level of security that is provided for the athletes.
Yes, first to say that those incidents have been reported to the police, and we are supporting the athletes, the delegation on those inquiries. The village is a very highly secured place. I cannot give you the figures on the agent, but we have more than 180 security cameras around the village in order to secure the different areas. So yeah, on a daily basis, we're very committed to make sure that it's a safe place for the athletes, and we're supporting them regarding those incidents.
Yeah, Rob Harris down here from Sky.
This might be one for Kirsty as well as you, Mark. It's obviously a lot of sensitivities, but still questions around the boxing. Should it always be the case that if someone is identified as female in the passport, that is how they should compete within sport, regardless of any tests or any decisions by sport, as you said yesterday?
Well, I mean, I gave not the first answer to that question. What I'd repeat is that all the competitors comply with the competition eligibility rules, and that's as it should be, and that's how these boxers concerned have taken part in these games, have taken part in previous World Championships, have taken part in previous Olympic Games, have taken part in regional and continental competitions. They comply with the eligibility rules, and I think that's as it should be and how it can be. On a broader point, do you want to discuss?
I do have a broader point, which is, for athlete well-being, is it a witch hunt for some to be concerned about their safety if athletes who might be considered biologically male are competing against female athletes in sports like boxing?
I mean, what I think is that what our responsibility is to try and ensure a safe environment where all athletes that are here deserve to be here, they have the right to be here. And so what's really important for us is to make sure that they all have measures in place through our systems and services to ensure that they can thrive and experience the best. 70% of athletes only experience one Olympics. So for us, it's about protecting everybody and to ensuring that not just about protection, but also well-being support is at for all participants.
But I think the issue is sometimes it comes down to having to take a decision if someone comes.
I mean, I would say also that this is a kind of a little bit a matter of hearsay and tittle-tattle and this and that and this allegation and that allegation. I mean, just what I would say is that this involves real people, and we're talking about real people's lives here. They continue to compete in the women's competition. They have lost and they have won against other women throughout over the years. And by the way, this should make this absolutely clear for everyone. This is not a transgender issue. I know you know that, but I think there has been some misreporting on this, and I think it's very, very important to say that this is not a transgender issue. These women have been competing in competitions for many years. Sorry.
No.
Okay. Take one more then. Yeah, Adam. Thank you.
Adam again from AFP has a question for Anne. There's been quite a few comments about the food and catering in the village. It's quite critical comments from major athletes. I wanted to get your reaction on that. Is this a case of people having too high expectations of French cuisine, or do you have? You
can never have too high expectations of French cuisine.
Or do you have concerns about the quality, and have you communicated that to Sodexo, your catering partner?
Yeah, we've heard a lot of comments. Most of them are very positive, and you're right, when we talk about food, there's also a question of taste. No, just to say that we've worked with the NOCs for months on the menu that are provided to the athletes. They were all shared with them previous to the games, so that we make sure that we can provide with them with the right menus and food needed for their performances, their well-being. So no, we've seen a lot of comments, but we believe that the food that is served is relevant regarding their needs.
Yeah. Okay, coming on to the second round. Yeah, can we go over here first? Because... okay, it's a follow-up. Yeah, fine. Apologies.
Yeah, just following up on the previous questions and your answer, and one of the most vocal, critic of the food at the village was Simone Biles. I mean, it doesn't make. I mean, what do you think? I mean, what do you want to answer? To Simone Biles, what do you want to tell her? Because she's obviously one of the big figures of the games, and if she's not happy, the word, is getting spread around.
As far as I'm concerned, I also saw on her social media that she was loving the pain au chocolat, which is maybe the reason why she said that it was not the most sane. What was her name? She said that it was more fat than she had expected. I have to say that there's a lot of fruits, a lot of vegetables that are provided in those restaurants, and we hope that she's comfortable with her experience. But just to say in a word that we're on a daily basis working with the NOCs, making sure that they have all they need for their experience at the village. So we didn't have a specific report regarding her comments, and if necessary, we're available.
Yeah, question.
Sorry, one for you, Mark. Marta Pascual-Gianola from the Sydney Morning Herald and The Age here, and it's building on the boxing thing, and sorry to bring it back to the topic again. But you've mentioned that, these were athletes that had competed in other competitions such as the World Championships. You've got Algerian boxer Imane Khelif, who's allowed to compete at the games today despite being disqualified.
I actually don't think it's helpful to name people in this context. I think it's actually, in terms of well-being and safeguarding, I think it's actually not helpful. But
sure, I can rephrase the question, removing any personal references. So we've got perhaps some athletes that might have been disqualified from the World Championships in the past, competing at the games. You had Filipino boxer, you had another boxer yesterday calling on athletes who failed testosterone tests to be banned. Should policies to participate in the Olympics, in boxing in particular, be a bit more stringent, something like swimming and athletics perhaps, that are more like sport-led as opposed to IOC regulated guidelines?
I mean, obviously, we are looking for, and we want, I said yesterday in my response that we need to have a new boxing federation, and sadly, if we don't have one, we won't have boxing in Los Angeles. We really want it for all sorts of reasons, and not just the spectacle, but because it actually does a great deal of social good. So we are really hoping that there will be a federation that can deal with these issues. As you know, the current eligibility is based on Tokyo, which is only 3 years ago. What I would say, just quickly on testosterone, is that testosterone is not a perfect test. Many women can have testosterone which is in what would be called male levels, and still be women and still compete as women. So this panacea, this idea that suddenly you do one test for testosterone and that sorts everything out, not the case, I'm afraid. But each sport needs to deal with its issues. They know their sports and their disciplines the best, and you need to target and tailor, I should say, the testing and so on with that. But I think we're all agreed, I hope we're all agreed, that we're not calling for people to go back to the bad old days of sex testing, I think, which was a terrible, terrible thing to do, and I'm sure we all agree that that is not the way forward in this situation. Okay, happy to talk to people afterwards, but I'm going to wrap it up 10 minutes early today. We did have 15 minutes more yesterday, I think. So thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, Kirsty.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. Cheers.
terms of safeguarding cases or mental health cases, like, to be honest,